Hi, everyone. Today we're talking about the brass family of instruments. Remember that the brass family of instruments makes sound by buzzing your lips into the mouthpiece of the instrument. Like that. So they all have a mouthpiece, they all have a bell that helps project the sound. They have a way of changing the notes like a slide or valves. And they're traditionally this brass color, which is like that kind of gold color, but they can be other colors too. All right. The trumpet should be a familiar instrument to you. You can use it in all sorts of kind of music, like in a symphony, in a jazz band, in a rock band, in marching band, and all sorts of different kinds of music. It's just really used really well. They also play it in mariachi bands as well, which is folk music from Mexico. So this is an example of the mouthpiece, and the mouthpiece just fits into the end of the instrument up here. It has piston valves, which are things that go up and down. You press them up and down, and it kind of opens and closes different pipes in the instrument to make the instrument longer or shorter to make higher or lower sounds. Brass instruments use the harmonic series, which means that I can press one valve down, and then I can access a lot of different notes just in that pattern, just by controlling the way my lips are shaped and how my air is going faster or slower and things like that. There are things that you can do to manipulate the sound on a trumpet and other brass instruments. And one of those things is a mute, like this here. They've tucked a mute into the bell of the instrument and it muffles the sound. And then this here is the head of a toilet plunger, and it makes kind of a silly sound with that. So we're going to listen to a couple of different sounds of the trumpet. The trumpet sounds very bright and it's pretty high. It's the highest member of the brass family. All right. Here is an example of a mute.
This pandemic has challenged Montana.
Here we go.
So obviously it's a lot.
All right, and then one more here is the trumpet mute.
Most often what you're going to use.
All right, so our next instrument is the French horn. The French horn can play pretty high, but it can also play very low. It has rotary valves, which means that when you press the buttons down, the valves down, when you press them down, this is the front side. You press it down here, and this is the back side. There are strings attached to a mechanism, and then this part here turns, and it rotates. That's why it's called a rotary valve. And that's doing the same thing that a piston valve did on the trumpet. It is opening and closing the pipes to make the instrument bigger or smaller. Here is an example of a French horn mouthpiece. It's a little bit smaller than a trumpet, and it's shaped a little differently. But like I said, the French horn can play quite a bit lower than the trumpet can. You put your hand inside the bell on a French horn to just help keep it stable, and it also helps to with intonation, and which means playing in tune, and it can also kind of act as a mute to manipulate the sound as well. Compared to the trumpet, the French horn sounds a lot more mellow than the trumpet. They both have this kind of regal or royal sound to them, but the trumpet is a lot brighter and sharper sounding, and the trumpet can be a lot more kind of round or mellow sounding. All right, our next instrument is the trombone. So the trombone does not have valves, it has a slide. And so that just means that instead of the different valves that we're pressing down here, I'm moving the slide out to a certain distance from my body or from the end of the instrument. And that makes the instrument longer or shorter and gives you different notes. You can access a lot of different notes just in one slide position. There are 7 slide positions on a trombone. This is an example of a trombone mouthpiece. It's quite a bit bigger than a trumpet mouthpiece. And then we haven't talked about spit valves yet, but we're going to talk about them now. The spit valve on a trombone is right here. And on a trumpet, I didn't show you on a trumpet. On a trumpet, it's right here. Okay. So when you're playing an instrument, when you're blowing into it or buzzing into it, you're going to create your air is warm, so you're going to create condensation, kind of like when you can see your breath in the air when it's really cold outside. So you create condensation, but then you're also just like getting some spit inside the instrument too. You do this in woodwind instruments as well, but a woodwind instrument is more straight, and so it kind of drains out or dries out faster. In a brass instrument, because you've got all these curls and of the piping, it gets stuck in there and it makes this gurgly, bubbly sound, and you've got to get it out of there because it doesn't sound good anymore. So that's why you have a spit valve, and that is you open it up and you blow into the instrument. It doesn't make any sound. It just goes, and then it lets the spit and condensation and water drain out of the instrument so you get a clear sound again. The moral of the story is that if you go to a band room and there's carpet on the floor, don't sit on the carpet because they dump their spit valves everywhere. On a French horn, it doesn't have a spit valve. What you have to do on a French horn, I went the wrong way. What you have to do on a French horn, because it's circular, you have to take the mouthpiece out and then you turn it and then you dump it out through where the mouthpiece connects. And I show you that in my French horn trumpet video. So if you just really want to see how that works, you should go watch it. You should go watch it anyway, because it's like, seriously, Miss Roush is trying to play those and it's kind of funny. So this trumpet, the trombone. The tuba is our last brass instrument we're going to talk about. The tuba is humongous. It's pretty heavy, and it's just kind of awkward to hold and to carry. You got to hold it in your lap or on the edge of the chair. You can see the piston valves here. It has piston valves like a trumpet. You can also have rotary valves like a French horn. It kind of 50-50 whether it's going to be piston valves or rotary valves. So, but they work the same. There's usually 3 or 4. And they're just massive. That's like an adult man's fingers. And so those valves are just huge. You can see this is an adult woman, and that the mouthpiece is just totally covering her mouth. Okay. This is a tuba mute, which I have never seen one in real life before because they're just absolutely ridiculous. They're so big. This thing is bigger than this guy's head. So you don't usually use a mute or anything on the tuba, but it's kind of fun to see that they do exist. So you'll know that this is the tuba because it is just so deep, okay? Here is a tuba sound. So you can hear just how much deeper that is than the trumpet or the French horn. And I'm just realizing now that I did not play our trombone sound for you. So let's go back and compare. You can hear how low that is. Here's a trombone. It has a similar range to a cello where it's going to be pretty low, but it can also play pretty high. You can also hear where they're pulling the slide and playing at the same time. It's called a glissando. And so you can really get these literal slides and the sound, and you don't get those in other instruments. All right. So we're gonna watch our brass instrument video with Grant. He's the conductor of the orchestra. I really like Grant. They're gonna play them in order of how they're sitting in the symphony, not from highest to lowest. They're gonna go from lowest with the tuba and the trombone. Then they're gonna have the trumpet, which remember the trumpet is the highest instrument. And then they're gonna play the French horn just because that's the way they sit in the symphony. So don't get confused. All right, please enjoy.
My name is Grant, and I'm the conductor of the orchestra. Let's meet the brass section, the tuba. The trombones. The trumpets. The horns. Together, the brass section sounds like this.